What is up, guys? It is Stu. It is another episode of the What the Fuck Gym Talk podcast. I'm down in the beautiful capital of the United States of fucking America. I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm in Corbin Jennings' empire of MADabolic. Corbin, real quick, if you would, for anyone who's not familiar with you, just give us like the 90-second from zero to MADabolic franchise.
All right. So I was born in Asheville, North Carolina, grew up there, went to NC State, moved all around North Carolina, lived in Baltimore, worked for Under Armour for a little bit, decided I wanted to open up a franchise, talked with Brandon Cullen, who at the time was the CEO. Things happened pretty quickly from there. Took about 2 years to finally find a space, get open. After that, we were open for about 2 years. We opened up 8th Street, and then from there decided we want to open up a lot more. So signed on for 9 total locations in the DMV area. And then shortly after that, Rick was like, you know, Phoenix is an awesome area. You might as well open up 12 out there.
And real quick, for everyone, for context, who's Rick, besides this gorgeous gentleman sitting over here?
Sorry. Rick is our now CEO of MADabolic. He's the head of Z Growth. So anyways, we talked and we decided to do 12 units out in the greater Phoenix area. Yeah.
Rick and Aaron, to mark this, I want you on the podcast at some point, okay? At some point, you promise to do a podcast? All right. I need some stats, Corbin, real quick. What year are you a MADabolic client?
So I had done a few classes down in Charlotte, but I was never technically a client other than just doing like some flex passes.
Because you didn't live in Charlotte, did you?
I lived in Charlotte, but while I was there, it was called Fight Gone Mad.
Correct, yeah, before the rebrand.
Yeah, exactly. My fiance, she went there, but it was a girl in boxing gloves. I legitimately thought it was a female boxing gym. I was like, no way in hell am I going to this. So she went for like 2 years trying to get me to go, and I was like, no way, no way. Finally moved up to Baltimore, came back, I was like, I need to do a workout while I'm here. So she finally convinced me. I went in. It was actually Brandon coaching on the first day. So
what year is this?
That was probably 2014.
Okay. So 2014, when do you open your first location?
2016 Labor Day.
Okay, 2016. Walk me through the years and the next locations all the way to present day.
So we opened Labor Day of 2016. It was probably about 2 years later. Sometime in 2018, we signed for the second location, MADabolic 8th Street. Took a while to find a space, get open there. We finally opened up, I believe, in August of 2019, because we ended up being open for about 7-ish months before COVID hit. So we opened up the new location. We're ramping up. COVID hits.
That's 3 locations at that point?
2 locations.
2 locations.
Just Arlington and 8th Street.
Okay.
And 8th Street was genuinely in its infancy whenever COVID hit, and you're still trying to ramp up. So anyways, that hit. We survived that. We got through that. Things started to get a lot better. Arlington got back up to where it was beforehand. 8th Street got well above where it was pre-COVID. So I was like, you know, there's some cheap real estate on the market, so let's try and take advantage of this. So ended up signing 2 leases at the same time, Alexandria, Virginia, as well as the one that we're in right now, DuPont. So we signed those. Those just opened up about 2 months ago in December of 2021, and yeah, I think it was sometime around probably November. Rick and I did the 12-unit deal in Phoenix, signed up for that. So we're looking for real estate down there right now.
Okay, so a few things. I want to wrap everyone's head around this. So your first location, you had enough success with that to go location number 2. Now let me ask you. Do you rob Peter to pay Paul? Do you use the funds generated in your franchise number 1 to help fund franchise number 2, or did you take out a separate loan? How did that look? Both, okay. Yep. A little bit of both, all right. Yep. So 1 helps roll into number 2. And have you repeated that process as a multi-unit owner? Like, you know, I'm taking X amount of profit now or revenue from these locations to help fund expansion?
Yeah, we have, and we were at a good spot at location number 1 whenever we opened up location number 2. So that was nice. I didn't have to take out as big of a loan for that one. Now that we're going into such big expansion, and again, we went through COVID, I had to take out bigger loans to go into the big expansion. So there's more loans to go now. But if we get 4 locations up and all of them really profitable, it's not going to be as many loans going forward, and I'll take the profit. So it's a little bit riskier for me. I'm putting more into it, but I'm not having to pay off those loans all the time, paying interest and stuff like that, and I have a pretty high risk tolerance, so I'm going to go with option B.
So the biggest thing right now, banks giving money for gyms right now isn't exactly the highest order of priority for any lender as it goes. And I know plenty of independent owner gyms that are looking to open a second location or do an expansion, and they can't get a fucking dime from the bank. You've been able to acquire cash post-COVID on on these deals. Talk to me about that, because I know a lot of people are listening to this. Like, how in the fuck after 2020 is anyone lending this guy money to open these locations?
Yeah, so we've got a small bank that we work with that's awesome. It's much harder to go with a bigger bank that it's just tougher to find someone on the phone that actually knows what they're talking about. I also used to be a credit analyst back in the day, so I know exactly what they're looking for and stuff like that. So the other thing too is if you do have anything, house where you can do a HELOC on, other things like that, that might be something that you got to look into. Again, you got to have a decent risk threshold to do some of this stuff. But if you have a brokerage account, you can also do what's called a pledged asset line, where you're pledging some of those stocks to get a credit line, essentially. So you got to just talk with some people and find some creative things that you can do with it. But there are ways to find money. So
you've got some good collateral the bank likes, right? You were maybe able to take a second mortgage or get a HELOC. But talk to me about when the bank looks at you and they're essentially looking for, okay, is this a worthwhile bet? And you understand the game. You used to do this. Why is MADabolic to a lender right now? Someone looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, X and double-digit locations in fucking Arizona? Let's go. Sure.
Yeah. So, again, there's a lot of other gyms who have not been successful throughout COVID. We've been able to get back up to pre-COVID numbers really, really quickly. We're making good money there. Even our new locations, we just opened with record-breaking numbers. So, to a bank, I think they see there are going to be some fitness concepts that come out on the other side and do really well with this, and we're kind of proving that. So, I think it is hard for some other gyms to find funding, but we really have not had a hard time with it, and we're growing really quickly. New brand on the scene. I think that there's just a little bit less risk with at least my concept up here to some of these lenders.
And it's bottom line, just cut through the bullshit. It's successful. You're doing really well with it, and they see it, and they're like, okay, well, he's turning these locations into little ATM machines, and okay, let's go ahead and give him the Arizona deal, whatever it may be. And I'm gonna, we got Rick over here to keep me in line here. You were mentioning numbers there. Talk to me a little bit without going too deep. And again, because this is a franchise for everyone listening, there are certain things that numbers that you can't disclose and things like that. But I do want to give people an idea, like, what is the potential of MADabolic? What kind of numbers? Everyone hears Orange Theory doesn't open their pre-sale unless they have 300 plus memberships, right? And people do this math in their head. And the average gym owner, when they open their own location, is like, okay, well, if I have 200 members at $150, right? We do this back of the napkin math. Give me what you can and what you're willing to do, some back of the napkin math on an established location, on how that does financially, what kind of membership base, if you want to talk about, gross revenue. And then when you are opening these, because the one thing MADabolic doesn't do, you guys don't do a traditional pre-sale. Yep. And that is astounding to me how well you're doing when you guys aren't sitting there and saturating and dropping $50,000 over the course of 9 months in a pre-sale scenario.
Yep. So MADabolic really wants you to have 100 members by the time you open, which is a good milestone. And in a lot of markets, that can put you maybe at a break-even point, but you're not hemorrhaging money. So that's a good milestone. We up here just opened up 2 of them. One of them, I think, DuPont finished at 178 members, and then Alexandria was 194, which that's the best the company's ever done, and we did that in the middle of COVID.
And what's the average rate of a membership up here in the D.C. market?
It's going to vary a little bit. This is going to be your most expensive studio. I always go off a 12-month membership. Up here at DuPont, $258, and Alexandria, $208, and that's just correlated with rent.
Got it. And so everyone's understanding there is essentially a month-to-month rate and a 12-month rate. Okay. Yep. What is the month-to-month if someone opted into that?
Typically, it's going to be about $30 more expensive per month.
And the majority of your people opt for 12.
Yeah, by a long shot.
Of course, yes. Much less expensive. And you guys maintain those contracts. I think Brandon, he gave me a stat. I don't know. What's the stat of how the average MAD member staying? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Average a 2 to 3 year lifetime client value, or LOM, length of membership, which is incredible. Especially this is a transient area. I just got here. I've never been here. I was here. My mom took me to DC when I was fucking 12 or something. But I'm driving around. I asked the Uber driver, I'm like, oh, this is the cool, trendy. This is the South End, of this is transient. People are kind of young professional, figuring it out, get engaged. But then when when they want to buy a home, they're not buying a home down the street from Georgetown. Like, that's probably not happening. So, but you're keeping them during that, that young professional fun time of their life. Give me the benefit of opening multiple locations in this market this close together. And I know the Alexandria one's about, 20 minutes away, or?
Probably 15 minutes.
Okay. So some people might think, well, wouldn't they just cannibalize each other? Isn't that an issue? Or does it create more brand awareness?
It's more brand awareness. So especially within D.C., not as many people drive. So whenever we're looking at new locations, we try and keep them about a 10-minute walk time away from each other so that we don't cannibalize too much, but just 10 minutes of walking, and I can put another one right down 10 minutes away. In Virginia, we do about 10 minutes drive time, maybe a little bit less, and we figure that's enough buffer to where we're not cannibalizing too much. What it does do is it creates a ton of brand awareness. So every single opening that we've had has been a little bit better and better, and I'm not spending any money really on marketing, a little bit, but in comparison to the $50,000 that you're talking about, I'm spending nothing. A lot of it is just referral based because we've got so many people out there that are pumping our name. We've got so much brand awareness that it makes it so much easier as you go along to open these up.
Your locations, this is probably the more sophisticated of the locations, in the prime building with the 18-foot fucking vinyls wrapped around, and this is insane. Anyone, you guys will see some videos I'll be putting out soon, but how important is the location of something like this in a high-traffic retail location versus what we all normally do? We all ball on a budget when we open that first location. We're like, it's kind of off the beaten path, but we'll make, if I build it, they will come kind of scenario.
So Arlington is the first one that we opened. That one is actually in a basement. We do have a door that's at street level at a very good intersection. But I still think that you can be one street off the main street where you get a ton of visibility just because 80% of our members are coming in from a referral base. Not that many is it just walking by. So I think what you want to make sure is that you are convenient to your core customer. So we really attract, in this market, 25 to 40-year-olds that are relatively affluent, and I just want to be in the center of that demographic. If I'm not on the most visible street in the world, it's not a big deal to me.
You said a word there I want to go deep on. So when I talk to most gym owners, the thing they pride themselves on, and they should, my coaching, my community, and our programming. These are our three unique. So I go CCP. And I always tell them that's adorable. That's maybe why people stay, okay? Maybe. But convenience, you're missing one of the most important ones, is by far it. I don't care how much Sally loves you. If her kids' T-ball fucking games get moved to the other side, or husband they relocate 30 minutes away, odds are, you're not retaining that client. Talk to me about the reality of the fact that, okay, we want to be a core thing in people's lives. Like I tell people, I'm not worried about being the best hour of their day. I just want to be a pillar of their schedule. And you guys go after a high performer who has a very set fucking schedule. I wake up, I go to Mad, I come home, I do my reports, I go to work, I go to my business, whatever the fuck it may be. Talk to me about the importance and the reality, and I think it breaks the romantic feel that a lot of owners have, but ultimately, guys, we just have to be convenient to them. And obviously provide great coaching, community, and programming, but that's like a duh. That's like the bare minimum. It's like American Airlines saying our planes don't fall out of the sky. Well, no fucking shit. We would hope not. Talk to me about the convenience aspect as it comes to when you look at these retail locations. You think about that.
Yeah, so I mean, convenience is key, especially in a market like this. You look at the amount of people that are having Amazon, Whole Foods delivery dropped off at their door. It is astonishing. It's $10, but they don't care. It is convenient, and I didn't have to walk a quarter mile to the grocery store. So in an area like this where people aren't willing to drive 10 minutes, convenience is absolutely king. So you really, really have to make sure that whenever you're going and looking for a retail location, that you're finding something that is in the middle of your core consumer. If you go just 10 blocks the other way, fine. Now you're on the outside of that circle. I do try and get as close to the middle of that circle as possible whenever looking for a location, because up here, convenience really is king. You can go to some other areas where people are used to driving 20 minutes to every single thing that they go to.
The burbs kind of area, yeah.
But up here, that's not the case at all.
MADabolic is known to open up in these really good tier 1 and tier 2, 25 to, I think you guys are listening, as up to 50. But realistically, you guys are probably working as 25 to upper 30s, 40 kind of range for the most part. Young professional. Let's go back a few steps to you that you come in, your girlfriend's working out there, and you talk with Brandon. All right. Brandon and Kirk are very young founders. Like, they're young, they're in it. I mean, it's, when people think of like the founder of, Greg Glassman for CrossFit, or whatever the fuck the chick's name is at Orange Theory, like, you don't really feel they're connected. I mean, they're not as connected to the thing. Brandon and Kirk are so connected to this thing. What was that conversation like? Like, at what point were you just like, listen, I want to get out of what I'm doing. I got some money. Where do I open? Because you're not from here, like, right? Like, how did you pick this? How did they sell you on going to DC?
So I actually went to them with the idea of DC, and in my life before MADabolic, I was an Excel, very analytical guy, so I had a bunch of pretty graphs, and Brandon thought it was the craziest thing he'd ever seen in his entire life. I don't think he'd ever seen a pie chart.
The bar wasn't that high, but for Brandon, he was like, this is shit.
Yeah, he was like, this guy's good.
Yeah.
We don't need to look at financials, guys. So, the conversation honestly did not go on that long, and seeing what I've seen now, it probably should have gone on for longer. Should have been some more vetting, but they were young, and you need people to grow. And to be honest, though, I can have conversations with people on the phone, potential franchisees, and within 30 minutes, I can know if they're probably the right fit. And I would say it's probably easy for them as well to know.
What is that? So let's say you're talking to me. What is it that I'm doing or not doing that will let you know? So
I think certain people can come in, they can be successful, but the person that is going to come in, and I am 100% positive they're going to be successful, is the really, really high achiever, the kind of type A person. The competitive success, all that kind of stuff, they kind of exude that. They're super buttoned up. They have all the questions lined up versus I have some people come on and their career, it's kind of been whatever, and they're just kind of all over the place, not a ton of questions, not well thought through. I don't know that I have a ton of confidence in their success, but I've had a lot of people come on that are just buttoned up, and they're just highly organized people that are, again, high achievers. I think it stands true for the clients that we attract, but also the potential franchisee that's going to do well with us is just a high achiever. Now
you pique my curiosity. Go back to your spreadsheets. What was it that your analytical brain saw about this area of Washington?
So we went in and looked for, I can't remember exactly what age group I had. It was probably 25 to 45. And I went in, looked at Georgetown, Arlington, Alexandria, a bunch of different neighborhoods in D.C., and just saw, like, holy shit, within this area, there's a lot of people that are making money within 25 to 45, and especially whenever you compare it to other areas of the country. Since then, I've gotten smarter. Whenever we looked at Phoenix, we looked at what is it going to cost for commercial real estate, what do trainers make, all this other stuff, because there's a few kind of key factors that are going to drive your performa a little bit. But for me, it was making sure that I was in the right demographic at the time.
Brandon and Kirk in the Charlotte market has done a great job of integrating with the Lululemons of the world and things like that. And you obviously have that kind of a retail kind of scene down here. Is that something on a B2B level that you guys have done a good job making connections with? And how important do you think that is?
It's a little bit tougher up here just because you have a lot of really big brand names.
Soul Cycle's like right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they love to partner with them. In a little bit smaller of a market like Charlotte, I think you get some smaller retail owners that love partnering with places like MADabolic in Charlotte. So I actually think Mad Charlotte is one of the best locations for doing that. We do a pretty good job, but to be honest, I don't think we do quite as good of a job as they do. It has been a bigger effort for us over the past year, and it's proven to be pretty fruitful, even with like grassroots events with going out to apartment complexes and stuff like that. So it's been a big focus for us, but I do think Charlotte does a great job.
So we would consider Washington, D.C. a Tier 1 market?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you're going out to Arizona. Not a ton of Tier 1 markets in Arizona. Mainly, are you going to be more Tier 2? Where
we will be in Phoenix. I would consider it to be similar to Charlotte. It's not going to be quite as dense as you're going to see in D.C., but there's some affluent people out there. You go to Scottsdale.
Yeah, my grandparents lived out there for years.
Yeah. So there's some money out there. And then you've also got ASU out there. So there's some cool opportunities. I don't think that it's going to be quite as dense from a population demographic perspective, but it's pretty close. And whenever I'm going and doing my research, I'll go and I'll hop on Orange Theory and F45 schedule, and I'm like, oh, you've got 12 classes in a day. You're doing well.
Yeah.
So I can probably do well out here.
So let's go stay on the same train. What made you look at Arizona? What was that?
looked at a ton of stuff. Rick was like, hey, you want to open up some more locations? I was like, well, let me go look at some cities. I looked at Miami, Denver, LA, San Diego, Seattle, Portland, Boston, Chicago. I mean, I looked at a lot of big cities. The two that I really kind of honed in on were Seattle and Phoenix, and the tiebreaker really kind of came down to vacancy rates and real estate. But again, the big things I'm looking for is what does an average membership out there cost? What does commercial real estate cost? And then how much are trainers getting paid? Those are your three biggest kind of controllable things in the beginning that can help drive profit. And those were the two best cities from what I saw. Sometimes there's some weird imbalances in cities where commercial real estate is really high and then cost of memberships is really low. Maybe the market's oversaturated. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a mismatch there. And to me, it just screams less profitable.
Let's talk about that. So operational capacity, right? Analyzing a space, square footage, how many people can I fit in here? What is my average revenue per person per class? All that, that's my bag. And you opening up as many locations as you have, you've probably got this down to a good science. Your ideal location, how many square feet is it? You're thinking you guys run a 25 class model, how many classes a day? What are your ideal parameters for a location?
It is exactly 3,000 square feet because I don't want to pay a dime above that.
What kind of rates are you looking for?
It depends on the area. Up here, we can be anywhere from 45 up to 75 bucks a square foot. Yeah, which again, I'm only looking at 75 a square foot if I can charge $258 for a membership.
Sure.
If we go to Arizona, I'm probably going to be looking mid-30s to 40 for our commercial real estate out there. So it varies a little bit from market to market, but that's one of the biggest struggles for us. I mean, you go into an Orange Theory, they're fitting 52 people in a class. You go to F45, they're fitting 36 people in a 2,000 square foot space. It's fucking crammed. Yeah. But it makes the commercial real estate a little bit cheaper. So that's something that we got to kind of think through, and it does make finding a space a little bit longer. But whenever you found the right space, it's a nice, perfect rectangle for the training floor. It's right around 3,000 square feet. And I think our clients love it. They come in and it feels so much more spacious. You're able to do way more moves than you were at some of the other places. So those are kind of all the factors that we look at.
Out of 3K, what is the actual floor?
As big as I can make it, and I make that lobby as small as humanly possible.
Correct. So, and that's the interesting thing. I think there's a phase, and I did it in my location in Charlotte. It was just exhaustive, 3,000 square feet of coffee shop and Wi-Fi lounge and the whole fucking deal. There was definitely a thing, I think, where people at some point in the micro gym industry wanted to make this experiential location, which I'm still a big fan of. I think that's experiential locations are going to be the one thing I think is going to save a lot of brick and mortars in the future. However, when it comes down to it, guys, you're paying for that square foot every minute of every day. And if it's not being utilized and you're not making money on it, you got to really weigh the pros and cons, especially in a city like this where you're paying up to $75 a fucking square foot.
Yep, and I think it depends on the concept. I don't think you can play in the middle well. I think you're either hyper-focused on the training, people are coming in for that, or you're bougie as hell. You're at Barry's Boot Camp. You got Keels or whatever the hell they have in their bathroom now, and it's just
the
nice.
Smoothie bar. And
you're going there, you're taking your photos so all your friends can see that you went and did
sitting
the
on the
workout.
couches and hanging out, yeah.
We're not that. You come in here because you want to train. So I don't... our lobbies aren't crappy, but I don't go over the top with them, and I don't focus on making them huge. I would much rather you be able to move freely in here, our trainers be able to actually move around the room, see you, and all that stuff. So that's what's most important to me, and I go and see so many other spaces where another fitness concept has failed, and we're going and looking at their place, and I'm like, you threw the bathrooms in the middle of your space. Your lobby's twice as big as your training floor. What are you thinking?
Yeah. A lot of the audience maybe have owned their own independent barbell-based group strength and conditioning model, CrossFit type model. And I did a big business summit, and Brandon spoke there, and a lot of the attendees, one of the big draws to attending this thing was everyone come to Charlotte. You can see Eat the Frog and MADabolic and Barry's and all these things. And everyone came to me like, you know what? I really like MADabolic, but the lobby was just so, it wasn't, I don't know, it was almost like they don't want you to stick around. I was like, bingo. And it's not that they don't want you to, it's they want a person who can't. They've got some important shit to do. Talk to me about that, wanting this individual who wants to come, get in, get fit, get the fuck out.
Again, we're high achievers. I'm hyper-focused on everything being as efficient as possible. I don't mind sitting around talking with people, but I would rather do is go back, focus on the business and all that kind of stuff. And we have a lot of clients who they've got busy lives. They want to get in, they want to get trained. By the way, we've got a quick 30-minute workout for you. You get out, you get back to your life. So I think the high achievers really appreciate how efficient we are with everything, not only just training, but getting you in and out.
Yeah. And I'll talk to a gym owner, like, when you go get your coffee, do you want the owner, are you going to stick around for 30 minutes after you get, like, no, you're getting that coffee because you need a caffeine kick and you need to get on with your day. These clients need a dopamine kick, they need a sweat kick, and they need to get on with their fucking day. And it doesn't mean that you don't have community. And I think that's where a lot of people who've been looking at MADabolic digitally, maybe listening to the stuff I've been putting out, like, oh, well, they don't want people to stick around. They don't have a great community. I literally live, my townhouse is right diagonal across the street from the location where Brandon and them rented out their holiday party. I can't even tell you how many hundreds of fucking people were there just rocking the fucking house down until whatever time in the morning. Talk to me about the community of a MADabolic. If that's it, if people come in, they get fit, and they get out, how do you create community?
So we do it through a bunch of different stuff, but the socials, like you said, are absolutely huge. I mean, we've been kicked out of quite a few places, actually. They've gotten so rambunctious. So,
which works well for the brand. You guys are a very gritty, badass brand, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things. People also, I think, love being able to work out next to a high achiever. So there's no necessarily competition going on, but being able to go in and know that you've got another high achiever, they're working to the highest of their ability. There's something cool about that versus knowing that you're going in with someone who's just there for the workout. They're kind of half-assing it. So I think that's a cool aspect. We also do another thing called game day where people come in and it's a baseline assessment test, essentially. People are pushing on a lot of this stuff. There's a big cardio triathlon at the end and all this stuff. It's really cool for people to come in, kind of be within their little group, and that's a big thing for our community, so I love it whenever we get to do those days.
If you've never been to a MADabolic, it's just be hard to relate to it. I'm going to do my best to explain it, but I went and took a class recently at the one in South End. It was 3-4 weeks ago, and what I always notice when I go in there, and again, I don't know if it's done purposely, but I'm sure Brandon would give a nod to it now. The psychology of the lanes that you guys have allow me to focus on me, but also the person directly in front of me, but to their back, where I can gauge myself on somewhat of my similar skill set, strength set, fitness set, because I'm in this lane and I'm watching him on the ski erg. I'm doing the parallel shoot throughs and I'm watching him like, man, he's fucking ripping it. When I get up there, I got to fucking rip it. Now, I'm not looking to the right, because for anyone who's never done MADabolic, to the right is another lane. And these lanes are segregated by the resistance training element, the strength element. One lane's going to be a lighter lane. You guys have 5 total lanes, correct?
Most of our locations.
Okay.
Yes.
So it just, how do we classify each of these lanes?
They're done by plate color. We have a white plate, teal plate, a hybrid, a gray, and then a black plate is the heaviest one. And
so these are just small change plates, and essentially just kind of let you know where to go. But you get into the lighter is the lightest of the dumbbell, kettlebell, slant, whatever the resistance training is, and it goes up to heavy. But it's the psychology that is just absolutely, every time I go in there, I'm just absolutely like, this was just, whether it was accidental or not, it's just so fucking genius. Because I look at the other models. I look at an F45 and an Orange Theory or Berries. Have you ever worked out of those? Berries, you're there, and I don't know if you've ever stared at yourself in the mirror while you ran on a treadmill for fucking 15 minutes, but it's really obnoxious because you don't want to look at yourself because it's weird. But if you look to the left or the right, you're looking at the person, the girl next to you in a sports bar, like, oh, fuck, I got to look at myself, I guess. But you're constantly looking around at everyone and everything. CrossFit's the same way. Everyone's kind of judging themselves based on that. And when I watch a MADabolic class, I see this beautiful psychological manipulation where it's like, it's 1v1. It's just you versus you. But you have someone in front of you, on the station in front of you, to give you like, okay, am I comparable to that person, right? And you also have the pride of jumping up a lane. I don't know if that's some kind of ritual you got, a la Primal Branding, where someone like comes up, hey, coach, I used to do the white plate, now I'm doing this plate. Does that happen?
It is, and I think it's just a lot of other brands don't focus on strength, but it's a genius way to kind of give people this scalable and measurable thing. A lot of people come off starting at the white or teal plate, and if they're able to get up 1 plate, 2 plate, the amount of people that come up and talk with us and say, did you see me on gray today or wherever it was? So it's a huge milestone for people. I think it's also important for them as they are trying to see their results. they know, hey, I was able to move up. This is the weight that I need to be doing next time. They're not at Barry's where you're having to guess what weight, or they're having you do a bench press and tricep extensions
with the same dumbbell. Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Absolutely fucking insane. Absolutely insane. First time I ever won, it was probably that exact same thing. I was like, can I go get another one, or is that like frowned upon? And the instructor had no fucking clue. So a CrossFit owner just heard you say, most people don't do strength, and I want to check mark that. And here's what I want to mention on this. In this sophisticated franchise boutique world, yes, you guys 100% have the unique of the only strength bias program. For every independently owned barbell bias gym, CrossFit or not, that's out there, they obviously do a ton of strength training. They use a tool that you guys don't use. I always say the barbell is great for fitness. It's shitty for boutique business because it takes up too much fucking square footage. Even like at Urban, we went down to the 5-foot ones, and I was able to really claim a bunch of square footage back on a 5-foot barbell. Walk me through that. When someone talks about, okay, MADabolic strength, but it doesn't use any barbells. Like what? Like give everyone a perspective as to what that means at MADabolic. Because strength, like, oh, so your dumbbells like go up to 35, right? Like that kind of thing. Like give everyone an idea what that means.
So like you said, strength at most other boutique fitness that is franchised like us, it is capped off at kettlebells that are at 48 pounds, and that is it. Or a 30-pound dumbbell. You're going to Orange Theory, and 12 pounds is the highest one on the wall. You got to walk over to the corner where you find another heavier dumbbell.
And very few people want like they're not looking for it. Those 50s at Barry's go untouched. Everyone's wanting the 15s and 10s.
Yep. So you come into MADabolic, and we have kettlebells that go up to, I think, they are 48 kilograms. So you got some heavy ones there. We have 90-pound dumbbells, 90-pound D-balls. So we do have some heavy stuff, and we do have some former D1 collegiate athletes that come in, and we have to be able to train them. So no, we don't have a barbell, but we do have a lot of other heavy stuff. And then you go into an Orange Theory, a Barry's and stuff like that. Look at how much of their program from a percentage perspective is focused on cardio movements explicitly versus us on a given day. You might have 40%, it might go up to 80% of the movements are now strength-based movement. So it's just a big difference on what we're focused on.
You guys, in that same vein, you guys do something that I am the biggest fan of, which is utilizing tempo in your resistance training. Allowing the individual, number one, to not have to go as heavy when you're making them do a rear leg split squat, down in 3 seconds, whatever it may be. Talk to me about the variation, the from a programming perspective. Like why, what is, and again, I know HQ, home office, creates your 52-week calendar of the 3 kinds of workouts, momentum, anaerobic, and durability. But talk to me from a programming perspective. Someone who comes in here, maybe they used to do CrossFit, maybe they used to be a D1 athlete. What is it you're talking to them about as far as like, I know it's a small room and whatever, but I'm telling you, you're going to get fucking strong here.
Like you said, we kind of list out the tempo for them. We have some days that are just moving at an 80% pace. We have some days where we're going to scale up intensity. We have some that are an all-out effort. And the nice thing about working for an amount of time and not amount of reps is your 100% is your 100%. I allow you to go pick a weight that is going to feel like your 100%, and you get to kind of move at the pace that you want to move at. And 100% is 100% to everyone. At the end of the day, you're fucking smoked at the end of the 30 minutes. If you're novice and you can't lift that much weight, that's fine. We've got some lighter weights down here. If you need to move much slower than the person over at the black plate, that's totally fine. It's still going to gas you out. So 100% is relative to each individual, but 100% is still going to feel the same at the end of each workout.
What do you guys skew, male or female?
Typically, once you get outside of CrossFit, it's usually 80-20 in the industry. We're closer to 60-40. So I think that's just representative of us being more strength focused.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are. I mean, again, even the logo, the girl, just like you thought for a second that this was a female's boxing gym type scenario. You guys do a lot of things, and I used the word community a bunch of times earlier in the podcast, but you guys are all about creating the culture. And that's the one thing. I've got people who are, talking to me about, I think I'm considering maybe doing a MADabolic franchise. What do you think the biggest benefit of it is? And I said, they have created, like the hardest thing to do in a gym and I know it doesn't seem like this, but for any owner who's actually owned their own independent location, it's to create a culture, because the independent owner opens up and he needs anyone and everyone because he's got no fucking money and he needs, come on in. And then he's got to kind of sort through those 75 clients like, oh, fuck, these 20 are a pain in my dick, and then these 12 are cool. And you've got this melting pot and then clicks. And any owner listening to this right now is like, holy fuck, like that's exactly what it is. You guys have such a script on, you look a certain way, you feel a certain way, you're not allowed in if you're a minute late. Like you guys, the high performer and all that. Talk to me about the culture in here and how that bleeds over into your HR. Because that is the other thing too. I mean, the trainers, we were talking about this earlier, you look like you're cloning these trainers and stamping them out. They look, talk, act, they look and feel badass. You don't have one that's, doesn't look the part, and one that's kind of looks the part, and one that really does. Like, talk to me about that.
Trainers are a great example of our culture. A lot of them will come in, they'll work out with us for a year or two, they get bought in. Like you said, they've worked out the teal lane, they're loosely competing with the person in front of them, they want to move up to the hybrid plate, they keep pushing themselves, they're high achievers, everyone kind of buys into this. A lot of the trainers are the people that naturally move up further and further, and then we eventually ask them, hey, would you want to come on board? So they're super bought in, they have drunk the Kool-Aid of this program, the culture that we're kind of putting out there for them, and then they end up becoming trainers. Their retention is really, really high due to that. So the culture kind of gets embedded within them, and then it just gets stronger and stronger as we have these trainers that have been around for a really long time.
How many trainers are you seeing now wanting to potentially migrate and open a MADabolic versus what, again, the independent micro gym model sees? A client is like, fuck it, I can do this better, and then it goes and opens a competing, their own brand gym across the street. You guys are having people that are getting in line and figuring out what markets are available for me to franchise. I
think people know that we have struck gold, and we've also found something that's really unique, and trying to replicate something like this would be really, really hard. We're light years ahead of you. So to my knowledge, we've never had a client go off and try and do their own thing, but especially from the DC market, we've had a ton of clients. We've had one looking at Denver. We have one that's opening one in Texas right now. There's a lot of people looking from this market. So I think a lot of people get bought in. They hate their corporate job. They want to go and do something cool. They absolutely love the gym. I mean, we have a lot of people that won't move away from the area because they can't find a MADabolic, and that's what leads them to thinking, well, shit, I like this city. I want to go and open up one. Where does, with all that, and with,
again, we have clients that are becoming trainers, maybe trainers who want to become franchisees, or clients wanting to become franchisees, they look at someone like you. And the funniest thing is, so I'm on my, I'm on the flight, and I'm just looking at your social media, which, by the way, we have to fix the link in your bio.
In my bio? Okay.
It's spelled wrong. We'll talk about that later. You are so fucking involved. Show me the fucking, any owner of an OTF that is literally, in the location. No, it's 5 doctors who all threw in $250,000 to open that location, and they're just fucking hands off. How old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay, 33. You are so involved here, right? Like, what is your what are you doing coaching wise?
I don't do much coaching wise anymore. It's about 3 classes a week now. I just don't have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah, I mean, of course you don't. You fucking own double-digit locate. Like, it's insane to me how much. And I see the videos, like, and I'll see, like, you aren't able to make it to a class because you're busy working, and it's a video of you in here doing whatever that workout was by yourself. And I see it on Instagram. I'm like, dude, this guy is incredible. Do you feel staying close? Because I feel like a lot of owners, too, a lot of people might think of a franchise, and not saying this is wrong. Stu, I'm going to put the money in. I want the playbook. I don't want to do the grind anymore. Especially, I think a lot of the franchisees that MADabolic is going to get are going to be individuals who either had a successful micro gym and now they want to add a different brand to their portfolio, or they didn't have a successful micro gym and they put in the hard work. Their work ethic was never the problem. It wasn't smart work. Okay. And now they're looking for the right smart playbook, but maybe they look at you and they're like, well, if he's the winningest franchisee in MADabolic history right now, fuck, I don't want to be in the gym off. Like, talk to me a little bit about what your day-to-day actually looks like. Because on your Instagram, like, that motherfucker's in that gym every minute of every day.
So in the beginning, in year 1, I was.
Sure.
I was literally in the gym from probably 4 or 4:30 in the morning up until we closed, and then a little bit beyond until 9. I would sleep 5 hours.
That 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. job, man.
Yeah, even worse. And like by the time Friday came around, I didn't remember people's names. That like it was bad sleep deprivation. Over time, as you start to get to especially location number 2 and 3, you can't do that anymore. You also have to focus on scaling operations. You need to put good GMs in place that can now kind of be the face of MAD, and be there. So over time, I've slowly stepped away. I'm still usually there for a few transitions in between classes and most mornings and most evenings. But where I used to be there all throughout the midday, I go home. I have a lot of administrative work that I've got to do. So I'm usually there morning and evening for 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half. And then other than that, I'm usually back home trying to do computer work. But my work ethic is on up there, so I'm still up at 5 o'clock most mornings, and I'm still working till 9, but that's just me.
Yeah, and your locations here are all relatively within a close enough distance you can keep a close hand on it. How do you view that going now that you're going from a Tier 1 market to more of a Tier 2-ish market in Arizona, and eventually you're going to have, how many locations out there?
12.
12. I mean, you're not going to be able to be everywhere. How do you plan it? Are you going to create a core like employees here that you trust and have trained and give them an opportunity out in Arizona to go get some vitamin D and run some empires out there for you? How do you view that?
So Arizona's going to be interesting. I'm flying by the seat of my pants a little bit with that one. If I can find an employee here that wants to go out there, phenomenal. They know how I like to run things and they're really bought in. If not, have to find someone out there. I will likely move out there for a short period of time, help get things up and running, find someone that I really trust, and then get them to build it up. I have a fiance.
Fiance, okay. Kids or anything?
No kids.
No kids? Okay.
No
She's got to be super flexible because, dude, you are fucking doing the most right now.
Yeah. I think she knew what she was getting into whenever we started dating. But no, she's amazing. I mean, literally from 5 until 9 every day, I'm working, and she gets a little bit of time. On the weekends, I try and give her a lot more time, and Sunday is like totally my day with her. I love spending time with her, and I'm naturally a big introvert, so that's my day to decompress and get away from the gym.
So let's go back. So Arizona location, finding good talent either there or elsewhere. What advice do you have for a franchisee who's looking for good talent? He doesn't have the client. He's starting at 0. Ideally maybe opening up with a handful, maybe close to triple digits of membership to open up with. But where do you recommend he gets that from? Because it's a tough thing, every unique brand like CrossFit, Orange Theory, you have to have your own in-house training pool kind of scenario, but it's that first location finding people. Is it about, hey, listen, you're going to open that location, you better put aside X amount of thousands of dollars to be able to pace people? Like, are you going to use money to attract some good talent in the beginning? Are you hoping the brand speaks for itself and people want to work for MADabolic? What's the game plan?
So I think you have a little bit of both. If you're wanting to open up with a GM, I'd put some money forward to the GM, and then I do think you need to be bought into the brand, so that's really important. Don't be afraid to go and tell every single person that you're opening a gym and that you're looking for trainers. I've spoken with probably 7 people now that are like, oh, yeah, I had family, I've got friends. I'm like, awesome, give me their names. I want to talk with them. Hey, do you know anyone in the fitness industry out there? So that in itself is a little bit of a grind, and you can't be afraid to go out there and ask. But you start asking people, and there's a lot of people that know people in Phoenix. And you start to talk with some fitness professionals out there. Can I talk with your friends that also work with you at this boxing studio or whatever? So it's loosely about networking.
Yeah. And the nice thing when you're in let's say a saturated market, there is a lot of fitness talent around that might not stick around for a long time, an F45 or a Bear, whatever it may be. And if you have made a name for yourself in the industry locally around, you might have the opportunity to pluck people up or, recruit and whatever, however you ethically view that. I never had an issue if I wanted to go to someone who I thought was a top trainer at another location, be like, hey, you're doing great here. I could pay you this, and I think you'd be better here with me. If you're ever interested in having a conversation, let's fucking talk. Because that becomes one of the biggest fears for a lot of micro gym owners. what's the saying? What if I train this person really good and they leave and open their own thing, but what if you don't and they stay? Like that kind of comparison. What is that like when you're training up a trainer here? Are you hoping this is going to be career for them, where again they transition to management and then maybe franchisee, or you're like, I'm good with this is just kind of their part-time thing for 3 years?
Both. There's some people up here that are making some serious money, and if you're making $150,000, $200K doing consulting, sorry. Unless you get in the GM role and you're really slaying it, I'm not going to be able to pull you over. But there's some other people. We just brought on a girl who was a teacher. She was making decent money, but we brought her on as a GM full-time. She'd been working with us for 2 years. She just opened up Alexandria, phenomenal opening down there. I think she's going to do really well for herself. So we can attract some talent like that, but we've brought on a lot of clients that are now part-time with us. They're huge believers in the brand. It's amazing how far they're willing to go for us, just going the extra mile. So I actually really like having them as part-time people as well, but they're really, really bought in.
We talked a lot. You guys don't do the extraordinary Orange Theory style pre-sell process, but you do want to, obviously, you want to open up on great, and day one was zero. What does pre-sell look like in MADabolic?
So pre-sales for us, there's a lot of grassroots events. We will do some digital marketing, but I don't spend that much money on it. We will go and do a lot of tabling events. So we have a tent, we've got a table, we've got all these tchotchke things that we take with us, and it's really about just brand impressions. So we're going out there, we'll take something, we'll try and get people's names, number, we'll try and get referrals from them, we'll do a bunch of different stuff. Maybe we'll bring a bike with them, and hey, if you can hold this split for 45 seconds, free month of membership, whatever it is. And the whole time we're offering a founding membership at a discounted rate. So that's the big thing for us. And then how I've recently run mine is once we go to opening day, we had about a 2-month period where we were selling those founding memberships. And for me, that is referral time. So I am doing whatever I can to get your contact info for all of your referrals.
One of the big metrics I look at when doing a pre-sell for somebody is, okay, let's say we sell 100 pre-sell. How many activate and actually come in for the membership within the first 30, 60, 90 days? For a lot of locations, unfortunately, it's not a very large number. Now, they're like, okay, I sold the money. I'm like, yeah. That money's not that good, though, because you need that person in there. Do you know how hard it is to sell a class that has 2, 4, 5 people in it? Very hard to sell that class. The energy isn't there. The proof isn't there for the person walking the prospect. What is that? What do you guys see? What's the percentage of people who are signing up and purchased it and then are showing up?
We start off with a free week. How many of those people come in? Loosely, let's call it 40%. We also just opened up our 2 most recent ones while we're in the height of a huge COVID wave, so numbers got thrown off a little bit with that one. But we do the free week, and we're just trying to sell as many of those as we possibly can. From there, whenever people come in, our conversion rate is really, really high on our founding membership just because it's such a big discount. We'll be around 50% for that, so it's a pretty high number.
And do you have a cap on how many of those you want to sell?
We've done it a little bit differently up here. I wanted to test something, and Rick was okay. Rick, a lot of the times, lets me test things out. But we did something that it was the first 50 members get a lifetime discount. The next 100 members get a discount of 30% off for 9 months. And then after that, it was 30% off for 6 months. So in my mind, I'm like, I'll sell however many of these I can in 2 months because they're all kind of going off a shelf whenever it comes to their discount, and then everyone's up to their normal price other than those first 50 people. So I really like the way that panned out.
And, I want to talk about Rick and Z-Growth real quick. So 2019, towards the end of it, that's when MADabolic announces this new partnership where Z-Growth is going to purchase a portion, and they're going to merge, and they're going to help grow the MADabolic brand. And I remember talking to Brandon about it, like, what an amazing opportunity, to do it with a company who has a good portfolio. They've got a good portfolio of franchises, things like that. And now it allows Brandon and Kirk, the founders, to really, get their hands on, because if they were probably before that really hamstrung trying to get franchise locations open. And for everyone, to take an organic brand like this, and correct me if I'm wrong on this number, 11 locations in 10 states organically grown before Z-Growth came in. Does that sound right? Yep. That's incredible. Like, to do it in and of yourself without outside capital and all this other stuff. You came in pre-Z growth, and obviously you're after. What was your take when you first heard that news? Was that something like, ooh, wait, are we selling out? Are we getting fucking weird here? Is this like where'd your head go? Because you're now very invested in the entire brand at that point.
So I actually met Rick maybe even before Brandon and Kirk. At the time, he came in. He was like, "Hey, we're thinking about opening a MADabolic," and I was like, "Cool." And I think he was looking at it with his brother or someone.
Rick was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2 months later, Rick was like, "Hey, dude, I think we're almost done." I was like, "Awesome, cool, like another franchisee, that's great." And then he's like, "And we're buying MADabolic," and I was like, "Oh, the brand." So that's different.
It's slightly like, different.
That's awesome. But then they presented it to us, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna help you guys with the construction. We're gonna help you with marketing. All the retail items you guys buy are now gonna be on this intranet." And things were the Wild West with Brandon and Kirk. The programming was phenomenal, but to try and do everything that Z-Growth has done without that experience, I think is damn near impossible. So Z-Growth has been phenomenal from the business back-end operations marketing side, and now it's allowed Brandon and Kirk to really focus on the programming, which I actually think has gotten better within the last 2 years.
And talk to like, how do you feel about the future? Obviously, your actions, you vote with your dollars. You believe in the future of this. With Z-Growth in there, because I look at Z-Growth as like, you had this amazing machine. You have this like new fucking, RAM or hard drive behind you. You have all this firepower behind the brand. And, Z-Growth, as far as I know, they've never IPO'd any of their portfolios. So when I talk to people about a franchise, like, oh, I don't want to be like, what are they going to do? Get fucking Wahlberg and try to go IPO? I'm like, I can't speak for them, but my guess is absolutely not. Like, I think they really like this kind of maybe triple-digit kind of market, just a really good quality boutique franchise type scenario, and do it really, really well. And when you do it like that, when you're not going to scale, you're not losing as many baby sea turtles. Like, I mean, it's just, you're not going to have as many F-45s that are dropping out left and right, or Orange Theories, because you're at thousands and thousands of units. What do you talk about when you're talking maybe to a franchisee? Maybe Rick's like, hey, I got a guy and we're talking about it. He wants to maybe talk to someone who's done this. And they're like, well, where's the future of the company going? Like, where's that? Because I'm sure, you're kind of like LeBron James in a way. Like, if the fucking Lakers are going to make moves, they're going to ask him, like, hey, dude, what do you think? Just, not that we're asking your permission, but we want to get your input.
Yeah, so a lot of the times I will get the call from the new potential franchisee, and a lot of the times I actually will have looked at F-45. Most of the Orange Theories are already bought up, so a lot of people are looking at F-45.
Is that really your competitor right now? Like, when you see people shopping you?
F-45?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I would say on a big scale, they're definitely our biggest competitor. We have a lot of people that we take over from Orange Theory, but I would argue you never should have been at Orange Theory in the first place.
Yeah.
F-45 is our biggest competitor, and one thing that you kind of spoke to is F-45 at like 1,000 locations. They will put one right down the street. Who cares? You're going to get cannibalized, and the odds of you surviving this, not that great. Rick and them have been phenomenal with allowing us to kind of keep our own territory. I don't have one opening up right next to me. So I think that speaks volumes to kind of where they want to go to this. They're not selling out. They're not screwing over the franchisee. They want everyone to be successful. You can grow to 200, 300 locations and everyone be happy and successful versus kind of selling out and going to the 2,000 locations.
And for everyone, if you're getting a little confused here, because we were earlier talking about how you have these locations all next to each other and they're not cannibalizing. What we're talking about is F-45 will sell to multiple franchisees all within that close location, whereas like Z-Growth and MADabolic is going to give you a territory where that's your area. You open up those locations, and you probably have to give a written approval if anyone else is going to open up in your territory. Yep. D.C., Arizona. I guarantee you have a fucking spreadsheet of 10 other cities. If you're looking at, if you were to go ahead and look at the next 5 years, what other markets would you like to potentially tap into?
I honestly don't know if I'll go into more after that. Actually, that's not true. I'm loosely partnered with John, Big John. Do you know him?
I listened to the podcast. I don't know him personally, but I did listen to the podcast.
Yeah. So we're actually trying to open up 3 other locations down there. So I've been friends with John for a very long time now, and he was talking about expansion. I was like, look, we've kind of figured out the scaling thing. Would love to help you. I know commercial real estate. The space-wise and constraints like the backside of my hand, I've negotiated tons of lease. So helping him out with opening some down there. He's looking at adding 3 more. But after that, I think that I'm genuinely kind of done, and at some point will likely go on and sell. I know that looks like selling out to some people.
That's why you start any business, is to eventually sell it.
And it's funny in fitness, there's a lot of people around who are like, I'll never sell, I'm doing this, I love the brand. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
You want to do this at 65? You're not going to look as good. You're not going to be in shape.
I thought the same thing, man. I thought the same thing. And here I sit here, and I thought I'd never not own a gym, in my entire lifetime. Going to that, that's very interesting. So if you're talking with somebody who maybe want to be a MADabolic franchisee, and what's most important? I think for a lot of the independent owners listening to this, they think that the training and their knowledge around the fitness is at the pinnacle of their skill set to be successful at this thing. I would argue otherwise, because if you're really going to be the head dog here, you won't be coaching all the classes. Let's think if there's fitness and training knowledge, leadership, general business acumen. What do you believe is like the good recipe for someone who's going to be successful in this kind of franchise system?
The three things you just said: leadership, management, and business acumen. So you can't be an absolute dummy whenever it comes to business, but you don't need to be an absolute expert. I certainly wasn't. I hadn't owned my own business before then. I'd done credit analysis, logistics, forecasting, some stuff like that, but you have to kind of be stubborn, and you have to be willing to learn everything. You have to be a jack of all trades. You don't take no. You just keep going and going and going. So I think that's a really important thing. You need to be a leader within your community. I think people need to look up to you, respect you, and all that stuff. And then you have to be able to manage people, especially if you want to scale. I'm definitely not the best manager in the world. I'll be the first to admit that. But I do think that my people know that I have their best interest at heart. The ones that are
you a hard ass?
No, I don't think so.
What's that characteristic you think you might not make you the best manager in the world, or you get the fault of you from a managerial perspective?
I don't like conflict a ton.
Okay.
But in a sense, I think it also makes it good, because I think if you are a complete hard ass, at some point you might drive someone away with saying something that you shouldn't have. So, conflict resolution is something that over the past 5 years I've had to work on, actually addressing people with this kind of stuff. And working through that.
And that wasn't a dig at you. I listened to that story of when you would get in trouble as a boy, your dad would have trees delivered and have you chopping fucking trees. And when you really fucked up, he'd get like whatever, oak or something like that, which is way harder to fucking cut. So I just didn't know if maybe any of that was like filtering down into your management style.
No, not at all.
No.
I would never. Although that would be funny to make them cut some trees. No, not a hard ass like that. I think if anything from my dad, it was just a hard work ethic. I mean, I was up in the mornings with him, 5 every morning, going to work until 5. So work ethic is the big thing I got from him.
If anyone's never, as a kid, my mom would take me to Sears. As a kid, I'd buy a hatchet, which is so sociopathic on so many levels. But I'd go into the woods and I would chop a tree all fucking day just for that 6 seconds of it actually just falling. And the satisfaction is kind of like if you chop the tree for firewood. Like, there is satisfaction in seeing that at the end of the day. Okay, there's a hypothetical individual. He owns an independent, barbell-biased micro gym. It's doing well. He's thinking of also adding to his portfolio with a MADabolic. Do you think that's a good idea? Do you like the idea? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a lot of crossover for you. So you've done well with the micro gym. You haven't had the power of like Z Growth, a badass brand, and all of that behind you. So if you've done well with kind of the more the harder thing, in my opinion, now you're going into something where everything is kind of set up for you already. I think you likely will be more successful in the MADabolic realm.
What element of the business strategy do you think MADabolic does the absolute best at? So everyone's out there in business land trying to acquire similar avatar customers or similar heartbeats of similar ages and demographics. What does MADabolic have from a business strategy standpoint in this playbook that allows you guys to win? Because you even said you're opening these locations coming out of COVID. The MADabolic locations are getting to pre-fucking COVID levels within 2 years. Or not before even 2021 was over. What is it that you guys? I know we can't explain it to the nuance, but what do you think that is?
We talked about, you have CrossFit, and then you have kind of this other boutique fitness group class.
The cardio-based ones.
Cardio-based ones. there's really not anyone doing strength and doing it really well. And I'm not just talking about strength. We've talked about the lanes. We've talked about the plate colors. We've talked about the intensities, all the scalability. So I think there was this pocket out there that wasn't being fulfilled of people looking for some strength. They don't want to go off and do CrossFit. They're tired of the cardio stuff. It's boring. You're on a fucking treadmill and rower every single day. You're a hamster. We've now given them this really cool thing. You can see the results. You can see yourself moving up in plate color. You were able to come in and do it as a novice because we were giving you a percentage, not amount of reps, working for a certain amount of time. So I just think it's kind of a combination of everything. I don't think I could pinpoint any one thing from a business. I think it's kind of everything that MADabolic has put into the programming really sells it.
I think it's the programming, it's the presentation. You guys are what I would call a white space model, right? You said it. CrossFit's here. Orange Theory at 45 Berries is here. And for anyone listening, I truly think what I would, if I were to make an analysis on it, I go to Orange Theory, and then I go to Eat the Frog, and then I go to Berries. It is the exact same thing with different colored lights, okay? I go to F45, and then soon BFT, Body Fit Training, the company out of Australia that's coming in, that Exponential just added their 10th portfolio, or their 10th acquisition. That's going to look very similar as well. You go to a CrossFit gym, and then you go to the CrossFit gym on the other side of town, and the CrossFit gym on the other side of town, they all look fucking similar. You guys are the one, and it's something I always, even did with Urban Movement. I want people to come in and say, this doesn't look like CrossFit. Like, this doesn't look like Orange Theory either. I don't know what this is. Because I think intrigue is such a powerful brand play for someone to come in and be like, holy fuck, I've never thought of doing it like that. And when they haven't seen it done before, they can't really judge it. It's like, that's not how this should be done. There's no pre-thought. CrossFit fucking gets killed with that. One person did CrossFit in Cleveland, Ohio, and then moves to Charlotte, and they don't like the way that CrossFit's being done because they're not a franchise. It's a license model. There's judgment, and they instantly are able to judge, that entire market. With a MADabolic, it's so uniform, it's so tight, you'll never have that issue, but you'll also never have that issue from your surrounding competitors as well.
Yep.
Have you guys had a lot of knockoffs down here?
We haven't had any here at all. I think there's been one open up in Raleigh that was a bit of a knockoff, but again, you don't have the big sexy brand. You don't have our programming. It's just going to be hard to try and replicate us.
And I've seen people to be like, 5 lanes, 5 people, boom, 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 water hanging bags. Like, I've seen people try to do this, and then I look at the brand that's attached to it, and it just doesn't click. It's like, I'm not good at interior design, but I can walk into a room and know when it was put together well. And versus like very hodgepodgey, like, that's what you did when you first opened, you didn't know dick, and that's what you stole from MADabolic, and that's what you stole from Alchemy 365, and that's what you stole from F45. It just looks like this really bad-looking Frankenstein that doesn't make sense to anybody.
Yep, and you mentioned the hodgepodge. There actually is a competitor up here. They haven't copied us. They've copied some other concepts. I'm not going to name who they are, but you watch their program as it evolves every 3 years, and it is the most hodgepodge bullshit thing that they can never focus on their core competency, and they're jumping from here to here to try and see what's right. We've been doing this for 10 years. We've figured out what's right. We're not hodgepodge. We're super structured. To a loose extent, things don't change much because they work here.
Yeah, I want to just go ahead and say, you mentioned earlier, your fiance doesn't get to see you a lot, right? And it's the weekend, and you're spending this time on an evening on Friday sitting down with me, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am for that. Thank you so much. But I want to leave and close this out. I want you to, for anyone who's thinking of opening a MADabolic franchise, and ultimately it all becomes, am I going to make the money? Because I think anyone who gets in, even if you're a hardcore CrossFitter, and I have had this conversation a lot, you come in and look at the program and you're like, okay, this is actually pretty fucking smart. Like, I respect what they're doing, even though there's no pull-up bar, even though there's no fucking barbell. I think this is a solid program. But there's still that hesitation and that doubt. What would you say to someone who's thinking about that, and they're thinking, can I do what Corbin's done? Can I open up a double-digit locations and then eventually sell and really have that dream exit as a fitness owner that we all think of when we open up location 1, but very few of us ever realize?
Lots of people can come in and have the same success that I had. There's not much special about me. I'm not a physical specimen. I'm not a business genius guru, anything like that. I did my homework in the beginning trying to find the right demographics and all that stuff. So I think doing all of your homework to make sure you're going in the right city, You find some good trainers. That is extremely important. From there, I think it's just kind of following the script that MADabolic has given you.
The playbook works, essentially is
work.
what you're saying.
Yeah, the playbook works. So as long as you find a good city, good locations, you get good trainers, and then you follow the playbook, you can have some success with this.
Corbin, man, I greatly appreciate it. I'm super pumped. I really hope we get a chance to fly out to Arizona and do this again at one of your other locations.
For sure.
I'll bring my my SPF 100 and we'll knock it out. But dude,
We're
thank
not
you.
doing it in the summer.
No, dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.